I'd like to welcome everyone to the Mad River Valley Recreation Hub Public Forum. We're really excited. We've been doing a lot of work for the last 6 months or so on this project, and there's a lot of folks here that are excited to tell our community about what's going on with it. And we're going to start off speaking with Laura Arneson, who is the Executive Director of the Mad River Valley Recreation District, who is going to be the entity that will actually be applying for this VOREC grant that we're going to be talking about today. So Laura, why don't you kick things off for us?
Great, thanks Eric. Thanks for joining us to learn more about this Recreation Hub project. We're really excited. We have lots of partners, and we think it's going to be a huge help to the community if we do get funded. And I'm going to give you a little background on VOREC. It's the Vermont Outdoor Recreation Economic Collaborative, VOREC. And it's been around since 2018. And the governor and the legislature realized that recreation is such a driver of the economy all over Vermont that they decided to put funds behind that sentiment. And they actually know that recreation in Vermont is a $2.5 billion industry. So we don't have that much in the fund, anything near it, but other years there's been a lot less money in it. But this year they're going to give away $5.1 million. And the process was a two-step process. First, there was a letter of interest that was submitted in August. And there were 104 projects around the state that were submitted. And that was the first step. And we found out that we were one of 37 invited to make a full application. And that's due at the end of this month. And VOREC basically has 5 pillars. It's to grow outdoor recreation related economy, to increase participation in everything outdoors and expand demographics. The third pillar is to strengthen the quality and extent of recreation. The fourth is stewardship and environmental quality. And the fifth is to promote health and wellness. So we have a great proposal that you're going to hear more about. As Eric said, the Recreation District, which is funded by Fayston, Waitsfield, and Warren, is the entity submitting the grant. We'll find out in late January, mid to late January, if we are funded. The smallest they would fund is $50,000. Our project came in at just over $400,000, so it's quite a bit bigger. They asked people to reconsider the amount that they were asking for because of the 37 projects that they're considering. That comes to over the requests are more than $12 million, and they have 5.1 million to give away. So we'll see if we get funding, and you're going to hear from different partners later in this presentation. Thanks.
Thanks a lot, Laura. Really appreciate it. I'm going to kick off things and starting to talk about the project kind of generally, and then also to talk about the Trail Hub portion of this recreational hub project that we're talking about. As Laura was talking about this, I think people need to understand that what we're talking about doing here is truly a transformational project for the Mad River Valley. And we're excited about this because as we were looking at the VOREC grant and those 5 pillars that Laura was talking about, it's really amazing how we really do check every box. It's a very strong application. There's been a lot of hard work behind this by a lot of people. And it's really been cool. And it's so nice to have all of the different groups working so closely together and playing nice in the sandbox, right, for the most part, which has been good. As I said, this is a truly transformational project in a lot of ways. What it is going to do is develop a destination for our visitors. It's going to create a year-round trail hub for people to get information. It's going to give us a place to highlight all of our Trails Collaborative partners, like the Mad River Path and the Mad River Riders and the Friends of the Mad River and the Recreation District. And and the planning district, so that everyone, it's kind of a place that we can call home to be to show off what we're doing in our community. It's going to be a hub of activity for outdoor enthusiasts, locals as well as visitors. It's going to provide restrooms, which is something that is really, really important. It's the #1 question that we get at the Chamber of Commerce Visitor Center. And the second biggest question that we get is about trails. And so we're going to be able to answer our first 2 important questions that people have for us. It's also going to provide really important parking and a large field for a new gathering site in the community. And most importantly, I think, is its connectivity with the trails, the trail system, and it's going to, and the and our downtown, so that we're going to, this whole project, if we're able to build it out the way that we're imagining it, it's going to connect our downtown with the Mad River Path, our mountain bike trail network, and really importantly, our business community. And this will put people within walking distance or biking distance of 3 breweries, 5 lodges, 22 restaurants and eateries, 30 retailers, and our farmers market. And again, provide restrooms and parking to boot in public, which is in downtown, which in theory will make things safer for people walking around and getting around downtown, and lessen up the traffic in town quite a bit as well. So that's what we are talking about kind of in a nutshell. And what I'd like to do is share with everyone a picture of kind of what this looks like, and make sure I'm sharing the screen here. Whoops. Desktop 1, there we go. Okay, so as you can see, what we're talking about, just to orient people, is this here, if you can see my cursor, is the Local Folk Smokehouse building, Route 100, Route 17 here, and the intersection here. Back behind the smokehouse is a very large field. And I think it's kind of interesting as we were going through this. I think a lot of people.
Hey, Eric, I have a slightly updated one. You want me to share it?
Oh, sure. That would be great.
A couple things changed just slightly.
All right, I will get rid of
I'll
this.
have that one going. So you might have to allow me to do it.
I think I did.
Okay.
I have multiple participants can share simultaneously.
All right.
In theory.
I should know Zoom better. Where am I clicking?
Under share screen.
Oh yeah. Okay. Got that. And then here. There. You can do all the talking. I'm just going to bring this one up. That work?
Nice work, Bob.
Okay.
Okay. So this is the intersection, as we said, the Local Folk Smokehouse here with their fancy new roof is here. And what we're proposing is having a Trail Hub Visitor Center right here. It's in between the bike shop and the bar. A lot of people might not realize there used to be a restaurant there called Pete's Eats. It's a beautiful, beautiful space. There's a big fieldstone fireplace in it. Beautiful wide plank wood floors in it. Nice windows out to the back. And it's really a remarkably beautiful spot. There's also restroom facilities in there as well. It's right next to the bike shop. Which will also, obviously will benefit from this whole investment. And they are prepared to really raise the bar for the bike shop and move that up to a whole new level. The bar will still be the smokehouse, and maybe we're not sure exactly what is going to be going in there in terms of, that's going to be up to John, the owner of the building, who, by the way, John Morris has been an incredibly great partner with us, and he's been really very generous with what we're trying to do with the land here. He owns this entire piece here. The Laskowski family owns everything on this side over here, on the other side of the Millbrook. So the visitor center would be here. That's a big part of it, but the biggest component is the bridge over the Millbrook, which Bob will talk about in a lot more detail from the Mad River Riders. And it's basically going to cross the Millbrook from the Seriously Sharp Way Trail that cuts across here. And then it will provide people can either go this way and exit out onto Route 100 onto the bike lane. There'll also be a crosswalk here with I forget what the name, what they call those things, Bob. What was the name of those things? With the flashing lights and everything, to go safely cross Route 100, because pedestrian safety is paramount with all of this, and connect to the Mad River Path here. You'll also be able to go along the river here and get up towards the visitor center and access and be able to get downtown from there as well. This is the parking area that's being proposed. There's going to be a pavilion for people to hang around in and have events out here. There's going to be composting toilets, or at least we're not sure exactly if they're going to be composting toilets or portalettes at this point. That remains to be seen. And then this green area here, we're going to hear a lot more about that later in terms of the riparian buffer to protect the water quality in the Millbrook and eventually the Mad River as well. So in a nutshell, that's what we're talking about. Bob, did I miss anything that I want to say before I hand it off to you?
Sorry, no, that was great. That was fine.
Okay. So with that, like I said, I wanted to give a very brief overview of everything, and I'd like to hand it off to Bob Colgate, who is the board member of the Mad River Riders, who is a really important organization, for that we've been collaborating with. So Bob.
Sure. So thanks, Eric. So my name is Bob Colgate. I'm the president of the board of the Mad River Riders. And we've been working with all the organizations that Eric met on this project for quite a while, and some others before this. We worked with the Recreation District and Mad River Path and many others on the trail sign kind of naming project and mapping project that you may have noticed, kind of the signs around the valley. So this is our next project, a bigger project, but again, a good collaboration with everybody. So the most expensive piece of this grant that we're proposing here is this bridge. So I got some images somewhere, but right now it's going to cross the Millbrook. As Eric said, it crosses from John Morris's land in the field here over to land owned by Peter and Blaine Laskowski. They currently host most of the Revolution Trail and the entirety of the Seriously Sharp Trail. You can see if I can get the zoom out here. So that's a slightly bigger picture. Well, this just shows you a little bit more of what's going on the other side. So the point of this whole project is, as Eric said, is to create a recreation hub center that's in the village. So it allows people to kind of to directly access the trail system without having to go on the road, yet directly access all the benefits of the village. So over here, like he showed you that the crossing, we're going to work on this crosswalk. You might have read in the Valley Reporter already that their town is looking into lowering the speed limit here to 30, which will help. And then we're working with the town and the state on how to best kind of define and that crosswalk and make it a safer way to cross. And we're working with the landowners on the other side here to allow passage of a trail. And then later, Ross will talk about that Bluestone Path. I inadvertently clicked, but that's good. This is just taking a step back, if you can see on the screen, of like how this connects to the trail network. So, this Seriously Sharp Way is a pink trail kind of named by Cabot because they sponsored quite a bit of the funding needed to build it. That links to the Revolution Trail, which goes down to American Flatbread, also connects to the Featherbed Inn, also crosses under Route 100 through that underpass, so you don't have to go on Route 100 if you've ever tried that, directly to the Rowe Farm Park. And then the trails continue off Laskowski's land on Revolution here When you cross Dana Hill Road, you're on state land. It's called the Howe Block of the Camel's Hump State Forest. And the two trails on that side, they're Evolution and Cyclone. There were quite a few others in that block. And those trails will lead you, all the way to Sugarbush, all the way to the Sugarbush Access Road, through our whole, that's kind of the heart of the Mad River Riders Connecting Network, which is open to all non-motorized uses. So hiking, biking, skiing. It's 4 seasons accessible for free by the public. So, I talked about the bridge a little bit. I don't have a picture right at my queue here, but we've done a lot of the planning work for it already. We had a survey of the site. We've employed an engineer to design a bridge. It's going to be 88 feet long, 4 foot wide, crosses the Mill Brook at that point. Does not touch the brook. It's well above 500-year flood stage. We're like several feet above what the minimum requirement is. On the field house side, it's going to come in about 6 feet off the ground and be kind of supported on posts, and then have a nice curving ramp down to the field level. And all of that will be within a grove of trees. So it's going to be shielded from obvious view by those trees, and you'll have kind of a tree house sort of effect when you kind of use the ramp to get onto the bridge or get off of it. I suppose that's enough. So Eric, should I pass on to Ross to talk a little bit about the Bluestone Path, or how are we doing this?
Yeah, let's talk to Russ Saxton. Is the executive director of the Mad River Path, and he's going to speak to how the connectivity with our hiking and walking trails.
Sure. Hey, thanks, Bob, for going over that. If I do screen share, would that cancel yours out?
Yes, you
Okay.
can do that, Ross.
All right. Assuming everyone can see this. It's gonna go through a PDF. Looking at kind of the bigger picture of things, I pulled this off of the MRV Moves plan, which some folks might be familiar with. It was a process that happened over a few years, led by the planning district. Josh Schwartz, who's on this call, did a lot with that. And this is just a snippet of the downtown Irisville area. You can see what we're most interested in that's relevant for here is this purple line here. You can see that's existing off-road access for multi-use, people walking, biking, running, that kind of thing, rollerblading if you're into that. And then you see here where it goes to dotted line. Dotted is non-existent but desired. And then once you get down here to the Millbrook along Route 100, it goes solid purple again. That's the Austin Walk on town property down to LaRue. Then right down to that bridge over the Mad River, it continues into what we call an opportunity for a future path someday, we hope, off-road connection. So this is the section right here. If you can see my little cursor here, right around that corner that we're focused on. So this was a pretty extensive process, the MRV Moves plan. And we're always looking for opportunities to connect these gaps or these dotted lines. And this is one of those. So this section has a pretty solid history going back some years of the whole community wanting to see this connected for off-road use, pedestrians and bikers. So now we'll dive right in some of the details of this project that we've proposed. Here we go, just to orient you. Here's Route 17 coming in. Here's local folk. And then, here's the whole hillside that is our focus here. So we'll start, I'll just kind of go through what we'd love to see happen. And I just want to make sure too that everyone knows this is all proposed, nothing set in stone, but this is what we'd love to see happen. And working with the town and VTrans for this part in particular. This is what us partners really want to see, but we still need permission from VTrans, and the ultimate ask needs to come from the town of Waitsfield. So we're working closely with both all the folks involved there to go through the proper process. But we do have preliminary support for a lot of this stuff from both V-Trans in the town. So it's pretty exciting to have that. So we'll start on the south here. You know, say you're at Bluestone and you want to get into downtown, or you want to get down to LaRue safely. So this yellow here indicates where we'd love to see a crosswalk. And Bob mentioned before, the town of Waitsfield, the select board actually made the official ask of V-Trans to take the 40 mile per hour increase, which is right here if you're coming from town going down this hill, to actually move that south on the other side of the Millbrook. And then at the same time, down there, if you're coming into Waitsfield from the south, the sign would be moved to get from to actually be 30 miles per hour a lot sooner. So from the get-go, we're trying to slow traffic down coming into town. So the process for that's already started, which is fantastic. So we really hope that we'll see that. So now that traffic's a little bit slower, that's going to help with the safety of this crosswalk here. And there's other things that we can do that we're going to look into to make this crossing safe. In-street signs are one thing. There's an image of one of those at the very bottom, which is actually a part of a pilot project that the planning district and the town did this past year. You probably saw them right on the center line to help motorists have their attention attracted to that crosswalk. There's signage that can go up. There's even things we can do at different intervals, like you can hire the sheriff to come sit there. They don't necessarily have to hand out tickets, but they can sit there and they can remind people to slow down when they're coming through there. So this is the Mad River Valley Real Estate Office. They're super supportive of this project and want to see this happen. So the plan is to cross here, then come up to Dugway Road. We actually could come across the parking lot here. So that's one of the things that we're going to decide yet. But either way, you know, you can get up to Dugway. And this is land owned by Andy and Jane Cunningham up in here, who are also super supportive of this and really want to see this connection happen. And that's when you get to this hillside, which I'll have a couple pictures of so you can visualize it better, that we're going to go up and across. And then you do a little loop-de-loop around the hill. And that brings you to the Bluestone parking lot. Another landowner, and the Bluestone folks are pretty excited about this too, and have been we've been talking to them about for a couple years to hopefully make this happen. And then there's some, which I'll talk about in a minute. There's some ideas to make it safe to cross this, or for pedestrians and bikers to cross their parking lots. I do want to acknowledge there's a lot of interesting traffic that comes in and out of this parking lot. There's a little bit of work we got to make sure that we do to make sure that it's safer for folks. And then this is a crosswalk up here, kind of up where the store used to be, or up near the Waitsfield Inn, which is just here. Just for reference, here's Evergreen right here. And I think this is the Northfield Savings Bank parking lot right there. This is a crosswalk that's actually been discussed in the past. Josh can jump in and talk about the history of that if anyone's interested. Set up people to get across to a possible bus stop that could be here eventually. So that leaves a little gap here that, you know, someday, you know, we'd love to see, and a lot of folks have talked about this over the years, we'd love to see a crosswalk, a permanent crosswalk on this side of town that connects you from the Bluestone all the way up to Iresville Common next to the cemetery. So that sidewalk section would be a fantastic improvement for connecting people to get around downtown. And then with an additional crosswalk here with those safety measures again would be a really big addition to that. So just to talk about the project in more detail, this is looking from the Route 17 intersection. That little triangle of grass at the hillside is a panoramic. So the trail would come from right in front of where my truck is here, kind of an earthen berm that would rise up here, come up into the hill at about 6 feet, and then turn into a natural looking retaining wall that would have a lot of fill on the backside. The goal is to maintain all the big trees on this hillside. That's why we're looking at using a gravity retaining wall, so you don't have to dig really much into the hill. So we want to try to preserve the roots of these big trees. There will be some saplings that would come down, unfortunately, but we would preserve all those big trees as much as possible. And we'll do our best to try to find a tree specialist. Maybe the county forester would come and give us some tips on how to make sure to work, how to work around these trees. But anyways, and it comes up this hillside. There's a little bit of a spine here. You can see that orange. Maybe you can see it, maybe you can't, but that tree has some orange on it. Kind of wrap around up there, continuing with this little retaining wall with the trail up there. And this is a view from the south. again, that earthen berm would come up through here behind these rocks and then up the hill, and with a retaining wall going around there. And this is the north view, kind of zoom up for the parking lot above. This is a visual of just an example of what we could do in the Bluestone parking lot with some paint on the ground and some, these are channelized cones that you could use. Just one example of what it may look like. I'm not an architect or a designer, so I just kind of threw this together. I'm sure some could make it look a lot better than that, but gives you an idea of how we can draw attention to pedestrians crossing here and make it safer. And then going up the road to the north a little bit, this is another continuation of that. And you can see this little grass strip to the right of the shoulder and to the left of that picket fence there, that split rail fence. Temporarily, that would be a great spot for folks to walk in that grassed area. If you're on a bike, you can continue just on the shoulder like we normally would. And that brings you down, I think about where you can see kind of those cars in the distance. The crosswalk would be somewhere down in there. And then again, in the future, this could be a crosswalk in the V-Trans right away right here. There's of course processes we have to go through, but I'm optimistic that we could make it happen pretty soon. I just wanted to, this is another example. Instead of using channelized cone, you can use these wave delineators just as another example of what could happen there, specifically right up along the road here to help people know that there's a place that they can walk. And I think I just wanted to show, this is what the in-street signs look like. I'm sure everyone saw those during the pilot program this past year. And that's what I've got. Josh can chime in with anything he else wants to add about context or background in regards to the crossings and the sidewalks and things like that. But I'll stop my share from there.
Sure. Thank you, Ross and everyone. Yeah, the only thing I think worth highlighting, Waitsfield, with the support of the Matter Valley Planning District, have been having discussions with V-Trans about ways to increase safety within Waitsfield Village and Irisville, specifically for pedestrians, looking at crossings and things of the sort. This particular area of Irisville was identified as one of the areas where there has been challenges with safety and conflicts for pedestrians and cyclists with vehicles. So this proposal sort of fits with some of the our suggestions of ways to address that. But it's part of a larger, there's a larger context and body of work that the town of Waitsfield's been making improvements on over this past year. So applaud these suggestions and next steps.
And I could add quickly, Ross, that you've got the existing Mad River path that goes from Sugarfish, from the laundromat kind of onto your existing trail system. So the same crosswalk that goes by Mad River Valley Real Estate, we could mark and designate over to Fiddler's Green Road to make it a clear path for people to follow, yet to have another route into the town to get onto that existing path, Mad River path over there that goes by the river. And then longer term, not really part of this proposal, but when they replace the bridge on Route 100 that crosses the Mill Brook, we will, when that day comes, which is apparently not too far off, we will push to make that wider and have a wide enough shoulder on it that you can safely access the Austin Walk Trail, which was mentioned earlier. So, in the long term, like from this central location, we're trying to give you 4 or 5 different options by trail, pedestrian or bike to kind of safely get to either the trail system or different points of the village. So.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's a really good point, Bob, that we're setting ourselves up for the future here so we can get folks all kinds of places from here and there and everywhere. I think that's a Dr. Seuss book, but that kind of thing, just to get everywhere by foot. You park somewhere, maybe at local folk there in that new lot. Just leave your car there. You can walk around, you can bike around, and that's kind of the dream that a lot of these, like a rural place like Waitsfield and Irisville Village is always striving for, but it's so hard to realize. But we have an amazing opportunity to achieve that like pretty soon, within a handful of years, with some some pretty cool infrastructure improvements. So that's one of the really exciting things about this project. There's a lot of exciting things, but the pedestrian connections are at the top of the list.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Ross, and everyone so far for explaining this. And when we start quoting Dr. Seuss, we know we're going great places. Oh, the places we'll go, right? So we're going to turn it over to Corey Miller from the Friends of the Mad River next. But before we do that, I'd like to just shout out to the folks that are watching and checking out this presentation. If you we're going to do a Q&A at the end. If you have any specific questions for any of the panelists or just generally, throw them into the chat and give you some time to think about that. And in the meantime, I'm going to hand it off to another one of our really valuable partners that's been with us every step of the way on this, is Corey Miller, who is the director of the Friends of the Mad River. Corey?
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Eric, so much. And thanks, everybody else. My computer says I have an unstable internet connection, so do some kind of signal if I need to turn off my screen so that you can hear me better. But I'm psyched to see some faces here and lots of names that are tuning in. And I just wanted to share with you some of the pieces that I've been involved in that will advance natural resource conservation values as part of this project and supporting the stewardship and the ethos that we're trying to build in this community to take care of this place that we really enjoy recreating in. So just backing up a little bit to that recreational hub site, at that site you may have noticed, and Bob certainly emphasized, the 50-foot riparian buffer, and that's just work that Friends of the Mad River is pretty accustomed to doing. So we're consulting in that way to help support this project and sort of make sure that there is filtering, the trees are there to filter the runoff, that they're there to allow animals to have corridors also for connectivity, not just people, like fish and like terrestrial mammals that move across those riparian areas. We're also working to make sure that the parking area has stormwater mitigation and best practices in place, and whether that's going to be green stormwater infrastructure or other best practices that will really limit the amount of runoff that makes it from the parking lot to the stream, so that our flood resilience is improved and our water is cleaner. So those are just the pieces related to the Rec Hub site. But there's another piece that we've been working on myself with Conservation Commission colleagues and with all of the partners that you see on the screen right now. But building on work from the 2016 MRV Moves project, we are thinking about doing community recreation visioning. And so what that looks like, at least as we're envisioning it right now, and it's still very much in sort of and will be, because it's a process, it will be in the development phase as we move into the future, but essentially engaging in a community level process whereby we can envision as a community, as the Mad River Valley community, what a gold standard trail network might look like that capitalizes on both our outdoor recreational opportunities, like for all of their benefits to us in our quality of life, to our visitors, but also for all of the benefits and in the ways of enhancing the ecological integrity of the watershed. So making sure that the trail network and the ecological integrity of the watershed are in balance, and we're thinking about those things and moving forward with this trail network that is a gold standard in all of those fronts. This part of the project will involve facilitated working groups that help advance our learning in realms around how to sustain and enhance wildlife, how to protect water quality, how to think about climate resilience and other natural resource values, but also what the opportunities to enhance the recreational value for the community is. We'll have community forums where we gather input from the entire community and really try to understand what people want for their community and for their quality of life as it relates to the values and of the trail network, as it relates to the ecological sensitivities that we want to protect, as it relates to all of those things sort of in concert together. Some of the outcomes of this piece of the project that we envision are enhanced collaboration and communication across all the stakeholders. The people here, the people in our communities, the conservation commissions, the general public who uses the trail network, different kinds of recreational users like hunters and anglers, that aren't always at the table for some of these conversations. So just sort of a really holistic, inclusive opportunity to provide input to the future for our community. The other outcome that we are looking for is just a shared community vision. What does this look like? What do we all imagine? And potentially a draft, sort of what we're calling an opportunities area map. So where are there opportunities for restoration? Where are there opportunities for amazing connection of trails? Where are there opportunities for places without trails? Where are there opportunities for more densely packed trails, like in village centers or other places where we want to meet in the woods? And the steps that we would need to take sort of towards that community planning will be part of this process. So that's sort of the community recreation visioning that we're calling it right now in a nutshell. And then the other piece that I've been involved in is sort of in support of the Steward MRV work that got started thanks to many of the people that you see here and many of the people in the community this past winter, gearing up or sort of addressing some of the challenges that came about or became very obvious during the pandemic, but really got addressed last year about the trash, for example, and sort of misuse at trailheads and at swim holes, and what we could do to better steward those resources. And sort of the piece of this project, the VOREC project, that's sort of extra special on top of that is sort of working towards marketing campaigns, basically, that will help our community develop that sense of ethos that we can share, or stewardship ethos that we can share with the people who visit. So helping people understand the rules of the game when you visit the Mad River Valley and how that contributes to us as a gold standard recreational place, and what that looks like. So it's just a little bit of funding to help support how we talk about the sort of, for lack of a better word, expected behaviors of trail users and what we sort of try to promote here in the Valley, bringing that together with some really clear marketing campaigns. So that's all. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Corey. That was great. And I think, as you listen to what Corey talks about, I think it really typifies how fully thought out this whole program is, that it's really looking at our community in a very holistic way. And as she mentioned, it's a really great opportunity to be able to do this, and to see all these different working together is really been a phenomenal thing. And so I'll speak for myself. It's been a pleasure to work with these folks, and we're all really, all rowing in the same direction, which is good. We do have a couple of questions up in the chat. The first one I think I can probably take on myself. The question is the landscaping company that is next to the new parking lot behind local folk going to stay? And if so, can the town require them to clean up the appearance? And how do we assure safety with them moving their equipment around? That's a really good question. Probably should have addressed that from the get-go. That is Appalachian Landscaping is the business that has all of their landscaping stuff over there. They have already started to move it over to the other side of the property, kind of where the barn is. And he really wants to have a showcase for his landscaping business over there. So it's going to look a lot better over there. And where it currently is, there's going to be parking, and there's also going to be that riparian buffer zone and trees planted, and it's going to look really, really nice. I think a lot of people, have a negative connotation about that site. Sometimes I know when, I brought this up with the Chamber of Commerce board, I think there was a little trepidation about it. John Morris is working really hard to make that property look good, and in making some investments in the roof and the infrastructure for the building. As I said earlier, the inside of that building, where the Trail Hub space will be, is really a beautiful site. I think people, every time I take people in there, they're just surprised how nice it is. And then again, as I mentioned earlier, when you go down into that field, it's a beautiful spot. There's beautiful views there. You're right along the brook there. And it's nice now. And after all of this work gets done, it's going to look even better, which is really cool. So people should rest assured that this property is going to look a lot nicer and get cleaned up. And John's very excited about making that happen and making that commitment and that investment. So yeah, that's the answer to that question. Peter, I hope that hopefully that answered it for you. Alice Peelmensch said, and I'm not sure if this is a question or a comment, says the underground crossing at LaRue has been identified as a critical habitat crossing. Is that, do you know if that's a question, or Corey? I'm going to rely on you here.
I think Alice, and you can correct me, but I think she's just pointing out that that's the case. And I think Mad River Path Association was involved in making sure there was a connectivity for humans and wildlife there.
Excellent. Does anyone else have any? We have no other questions here. I'm sort of surprised. Maybe we just did a really good job of answering things from the get-go. Anyone? You don't have to.
Eric, I have something I could add.
Hi, Charlie.
Yeah. And so, can I add something, or do I need to?
No, you talk away.
Yeah, you know, a couple of things. You know, I have some real concerns about the connection from Bluestone down to the proposed crosswalk. And, you know, we spent a lot of time over the past couple of years building what we thought was a very safe crosswalk at Carroll Road and Route 100. We built a boardwalk and in partnership with Sean and did a landing there and so forth. And as everybody knows, we lost one of our, a pedestrian was killed there recently. You know, there are adequate sight lines there. There's a flat section of road. And in my opinion, trying to introduce both pedestrians and bikers to the Bluestone area and do that sort of on a sort of temporary basis, you know, hoping the town might build a sidewalk at some point, or is really irresponsible. You know, I just spent 5 months down behind Smokehouse building the tiny house for George. And that intersection of Route 17 and 100 is one of the most deadly and difficult intersections probably in the state of Vermont. As many of us know, you know, a young member of our community, Randy Gould, was killed there some years ago. So, you know, I think the trail that supposedly would go from Bluestone down to Dugway is a sort of deadly proposal, particularly because we're going to be introducing walkers and bikers to one of the most dangerous parts of our, you know, Bragg Hill, Route 17. The challenge of making a turn going north on Route 100 to Route 17, which I did twice a day for 5 months, is like, it's impossible, you know, with the cars coming in every direction imaginable. So, and the last thing is that the sort of proposal to sort of create a pathway with retaining walls that don't denigrate that beautiful stand of hardwoods there, in my opinion, it's just foolhardy. You know, it will change the drainage patterns and remove a number of trees actually from that hillside, which in my is sort of the gateway to our sort of Irisville downtown. So I just have some real concerns, and you know, I without solving these sidewalk and the frankly, that intersection of Route 117 before introducing a whole new visitor center there is just, I don't think, strategically appropriate, frankly. That's my comment.
Thanks, Charlie. I appreciate your thoughts on this. And I want to do a shout out to you. This is the guy that not only was he doing the tiny house, but he also built the, he and Dave built the shelters for the Stewart MRV portalettes and garbage. So really appreciate what you've done for the community with that. Really do. Ross or Josh, is there any, would you like to respond to that at all at this point?
I mean, there's a lot of research that we're doing, working with experts at VTrans and beyond. I'm pretty comfortable with the infrastructure that we're proposing. It's being vetted. There are minor adjustments that we'll make as we go along and learn things. But as it is, it's a pretty unsafe area. We're doing our best to make it even safer with this infrastructure, and that's what the whole idea of our plans is to make it safer for people to be getting around downtown. You know, if we do nothing, it just maintains the status quo of the current situation, which isn't what I think we want our town to be. We want it to be more accessible for pedestrians and bikers, and this, you know, this project does just that, and we're going to do the best that we can to make it as safe as possible. You know, accidents happen, unfortunately. That's why they're, you know, called accidents. We don't want them to happen. We do our absolute best to make sure that they don't happen. As it is, you know, accidents, I think, are going to be more likely to occur now without doing anything. So I think we're going to be reducing the likelihood that pedestrian and biker accidents will happen as the town naturally becomes more of a recreation destination. You know, I think even if we weren't even here tonight talking about all this, we know that trail usage is going up. Last year, we saw in some spots a 40% increase on some of our trails. Actually, I think it's actually Revolution, the one that this connects to. So there's a ton of traffic for recreation. People want active transportation, want to use active transportation methods to get around. So naturally, as things get busier in terms of recreation traffic, there's going to be more people out and about on the roads, and you know, we need to address that. And I think what we're doing with our plans is a really good plan to address that. And then
Ross,
yeah.
This is Alice. If I can add something here. I understand what Charlie's saying and what you're trying to accomplish. I tend to wonder if you're best off waiting on a plan or a design until VTrans actually starts its study on the redesign of the Route 117 intersection. That particular project is now on the priority list of projects for VTrans for the coming year. And the Regional Transportation Advisory Committee just passed the approval on all of the projects. And one of the things that happened at the meeting where this was passed was the way it was written to be voted on did not include bicycle safety at that intersection. So you owe one to the Regional Transportation Advisory Committee because they caught it and put bikes in there. Bike safety, pedestrian safety at that intersection. But I tend to wonder, and they are looking at including Bragg Hill in this project. So the design is going to be Route 100, Route 17, including Bragg Hill. I would not be a bit surprised if you saw designs that actually asked for land from some of the business owners there to improve that intersection. So to address what Charlie's saying, which is very true, and what you're saying, which I think is very true, I would recommend waiting on VTrans and see what designs they come up with and the feedback when they begin those community discussions.
Yeah, I
So
would,
I'd like to chime in here, Alice. I think you bring up very valid points, but we are in a point in time when this is a very unusual amount of money in this fund, the 5.1 million, it's because of American Rescue funds being given to the state of Vermont. So we have no idea if in the future there'll ever be this big of a pot of money. Most of the other projects that are vying for this are smaller, and ours advanced, I think, because of all these different components. And I believe, this is the state. They know that intersection needs work, and it's great that it's getting bumped up. But I'll also address another question that came up from Lisa Loomis and the time frame of all this. We will be hearing in January whether or not we're getting funded either completely or partially. And then there'll be a few months of, things going back and forth with the state. And in April, the grant documents will be executed and we'll be able to start using the money. You could actually have some things go retroactive back to April of this year. But basically, we have till the end of 2023 to use this money. Mm-hmm. So we'll have more than a year and a half to develop the recreation hub. And so I don't know, it almost puts pressure on VTrans to keep moving, right? To work with us, because all this would happen. So I just wanted to put those pieces out there.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, I know VTrans and how fast they move. Yeah, I understand that. That just seems to me that in that time frame, and however you organize your timeline, depending on how fast you can get VTrans to start its study, which is the first part of it. You've got a lot to work on there ahead of adding this trail or this access around Bluestone, I think. And I just want to make one other point here, just so everybody's aware. I think it would be a good idea for the Waitsfield Planning Commission to, for this group with the grant and the trail design, which we want, but also be aware that the Planning Commission is now inching forward. Actually, we're steamrolling forward into municipal development and municipal planning for Irisville Village and for what we're calling our smart growth area. And a lot of what we're looking at now, our emphasis is affordable housing. It is looking at where affordable housing can go and where our smart growth areas are. The grant we've applied for is looking for what they're calling walkable villages. So they're going to want to see how we develop the Irisville area, which has the town services, not just for Waitsfield, but for all of the Mad River Valley community. We're going to be looking at walkability in that area. So I don't see an issue. I don't see conflicts, but I see making sure we're working together as the Planning Commission moves forward with the municipal planning.
Yeah. Also, I don't think availability of money should override public safety issues, frankly. And in the last multiple designs of that intersection, there was a sidewalk as part of that resolution there.
Right.
And, to spend, I don't know what Kingsbury's bid on this thing, $100,000 on a trail that could be part of the redesign of that intersection seems foolhardy. But still, the deadly aspects of introducing people there, into that Bluestone parking lot, their service entrance, all that stuff just seems to me to be another public safety issue that I frankly would not like to be a part of.
Yeah, and I would point out I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. I'm sorry, it's Snap. I can wait.
I just wanted to point out to everyone that now that the Biden's infrastructure bill has passed, there is now going to be a lot of infrastructure money coming in, which VTrans is waiting for. So keep in mind that there are additional sources of funding, and working together on municipal planning, those additional resources can be identified. The goal is to look at the ARPA money coming in, the infrastructure money coming in, and when you do a project, you can actually layer the funding.
Harrison, do you have something
Sure.
you want to say?
Sure, thanks. I just wanted to, when I look at this, we already have, a connection between these two dots, down behind Iresville Common over to Fiddler's Green. So we have access between these two areas already that could be improved also with some money spent on those. We spent a lot of years, building these paths, trying to keep people off of Route 100. That's just been a focus. But we do want to service the town also. But I think we have an existing trail and alignment that could be looked at and improved. And I think maybe the Bluestone Trail there is going to be a little frightening when it's designed and you look at it, the size of the retaining wall, the distance from the right of way and what it needs and how much you're going to be cutting in that hill. But that's just my feeling looking at the hill. So I guess my main point is that it seems we could make these connections with what we have if we improve them a little bit around on the backside. That's it.
Thank you very much. Does anyone else have any other questions at all? This is, like I said, this is kind of an ongoing process. We're going to be submitting the application, and with this, and like I said, there's a lot to discuss here, and there's a lot of details that still need to be worked out. And you can definitely rest assured that we have heard your opinions for sure. And safety has been a big issue. That's something that we have been discussing a lot. And a lot of us have been involved in, various different things with the planning district and all of that. Joshua, I was going to ask, I don't want to put Joshua on the spot, but is there anything you want to add to this discussion? Because you have as good a broad knowledge of this situation at this intersection as anybody.
Yeah, I think there are existing safety concerns at the Route 17 Route 100 intersection. It was the focus of approximately 15-year effort with VTrans to explore options to redo that intersection, which culminated in 2003 and a decision not to do anything. As Alice said, it is actually back on the board and is a regional priority and a VTrans priority, and it's something that they're looking at. I don't quite know timing and such, but as Alice appropriately mentioned, the first step is an analysis, is a scoping study. So where that is and what that timeline is, I don't know, but it is on the radar and is something that VTrans is interested in addressing. I do think that any, I think it's worth mentioning, any type of development, pedestrian accommodation in the right of way is under the domain of VTrans. There wouldn't be any crossings or pedestrian accommodation without the full support of the owner and the transportation authority. In this case, is VTrans. But I do think that right now there are individuals going from the south side of Route 17 into the village, and that is an existing condition. And some of the, as Snap said, there is a way to get there, get here from there, going around on Fiddler. Is it Fiddler's Walk? Is that the proper name? Fiddler's Walk from the end of Fiddler's Green to the Irisville Common. The reality is that that's a long way around. And I think when for many folks, if they're standing in one area and they can see where they're trying to go, they usually try to go in a straight line. So trying to find something that finds that middle ground, I think is the goal here. But again, and having more than one option, I think is great. But I think I think these are important considerations going forward with this project. So thank you for sharing.
Thanks a lot, Josh. I appreciate your insights on that. Does anyone else have anything they want to ask, comments to make? Like I said, this project's been going on for quite some time, and all the planning for this, and there's a lot of really great opportunities for our community, and we've got some really great people at the table, and a great cross section of different organizations that are working together. You're going to be hearing a lot more from us as time goes along and things develop. And please feel free to reach out to me or to any one of the partners that we're working with, and I'm sure that they'd be glad to help answer any questions and invite you to be involved in it if that's something you'd like to do. So with that, I will call our meeting to an end. I'd like to thank Mad River Valley TV for live streaming this and for recording it. Tony, you're the best. And look forward to sharing more information with you and the result of how this application goes through as soon as we find out in January. Laura's going to have a big old smile on her face and telling us what happens. So thanks, everyone, and we'll see you around the town.